Hey everyone, welcome back to House of Chi Yoga. I'm going to share a a stretch with you tonight. I wish it was a switch, which sounds like a sauna and a stretch combined, which maybe that's a new word, and that sounds like heaven right now. But anyway, we're going to be doing a quick stretch class. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've just sat and stretched, so let's get into it. Let's begin. What am I wanting to do here? Let's begin easy seated, so one foot in front of the other. Or I just did a little workout, so I know my body's warm. I'm going to go ahead and take my right foot and place it on top of my left hip. I always wiggle my toes, wiggle my sits bones, find the space near me. You can take your fingertips to the floor. Close your eyes. Take some big inhales and exhales. Gradually connecting the fingertips to the floor. And as you inhale, lift the chin and the heart. As you exhale, tuck and pull back. Inhale, lift. Exhale, tuck and pull back. Keep up with this movement. I want you to notice what's happening with the knees. So as you pull back, make sure the knees aren't following you, but you're keeping the knees down so you can create a nice stretch through the hip flexors there. One more. This time, hold on the way back. Bring the hands to the knees. Tuck the chin. You can keep pushing the knees down and then just move around, stretching the back body here, keeping the sits bones planted, maybe rolling the shoulders, whatever feels good there for you, creating a deep C curve through the spine. And then we'll just go ahead and lift up through the sternum, through the top of the head, and roll the shoulders back and away. I'm going to add a little gaze as I go right to left with my shoulders. I'm going right to left with my gaze. Nice. And then coming back through center. Interlace the fingers, press them forward. Oh, my fingers are tight. And then as you gently release, let's just circle through the wrist. Take the top of the hands, fingers facing towards you, and press, or try to press. Mine are not going down today. Try to maybe pulse the top of the wrist down. If you can hold it there, then awesome. You may need to come to the side of your hips too if you can't reach all the way forward yet. Gently releasing, peeling the fingers up. Now before the fingers leave the mat entirely, just keep the fingertips there and press into them. You're going to open up that bottom of the finger space. Now probably you won't be able to get all the fingers here, so I'm going to flip and do my thumb. I said probably like you would be. You're definitely not going to be able to stretch your thumb there too, so now we're going to do our thumb. If you can, definitely take a picture and send it to me because that would be quite impressive. And then just take the hands together and just move through the joints. I'm just kind of gripping my fingers and pulling through the joints here. And I even go fast, really short and fast to massage the joints. Create a little heat. We'll inhale, palms lift. Exhale, bring the hands together, energy to heart center. And then releasing the hands, now reaching right to left. We're creating a really soft flow here, keeping the sit bones down. Opening up or fanning out the ribs, the muscles in between the ribs. Oh, puppy, out of my space. Get out of my yoga bubble. And you can follow with the gaze going the opposite direction here. So as I lift, I look up, and I lift, and I look up. Now we'll add some circular movement. So as I round forward, I'm going to express through the back body. Keeping the sits bones planted here as well. Landing on the floor this time, fingertips are going to go wide. Squeeze the scapula together and then push the scapula apart. Now, you can't see my back because I just have one camera angle, but all I'm doing is squeezing my scapulas together to open the heart and then pushing the scapula away from each other to create this nice opening space in the rhomboids. Let's give it a couple more. If that's still kind of confusing, you may need to look on the internet to see what the rhomboids, the scaps are, or you may need to just look in the mirror and play with it. Now staying low, let's lean right to left. You're opening up the front of the shoulder space right here where it connects with the pec. And I'm looking, or I'm gazing with the movement this time. And then taking a nice roll through the spine. Think about the sits bones pulling down, and then vertebrae by vertebrae all the way up. You inhale as the gaze lifts. Exhale as the gaze goes down, and just keep rolling until you're at the floor, and then reverse it. Inhale, bring it up, and exhale, nice and slow down. Let's go through one more together. Inhale, and exhale. Staying at the bottom, maybe walking the hands forward, I don't want to put my face on this floor because my dogs have been running everywhere. So I'm just going to support my forehead with my hands. You can gently roll the forehead right to left. And then you can come on up, pressing through the palms. And if you did do one foot on top of the other, let's go ahead and switch now. Hands to knees and then hinge forward. Now squeeze the hips together. You can take one arm out or maybe both and just gently pull to the one side, pull to the other side. Keeping the sits bones down. We're going to add a little rotation. So instead of just pulling, we're now going to rotate without bringing the hips, without bringing the sits bones. Make sure the thumb is facing up, and you can even start reaching the thumb back and behind you, continuing to rotate the shoulder open and stretch. Last one. And then we'll bind the hands behind, open the heart here. Feel a nice deep stretch across the chest. I like to hold this bind and then lift and lower the chin. I just feel like it really works deeper underneath the, oh gosh, what are these front bones called? Clavicles? I think it's your clavicles. And then you have the option to lean forward. I have never been good at this stretch, so it's really challenging for me to hold that. So I'm going to go back into my supported head forward fold here. And hopefully you feel it a little bit more on the other hip, the hip that the foot is on top of. Taking the head right to left again, paying attention to the neck, making sure there's no pressure, there's no tension in the neck, the shoulders are relaxed. Let go on the exhales. Especially if it's the end of your day, wherever you are. Or I guess any time of the day is a very good time to stop and tell yourself to let go. Pressing through the palms, let's bring it up through center. I'm sure the camera is focused now on the dog and not on me, but we shall let it go and move on. Huh, Elsa? I am not scratching you right now. Get out of here. So unhooking the feet and bringing them far enough in front that you can still see them and touch them, but not too close. Elsie, get out of here. She loves when I scratch her butt, but okay, you got a butt scratch. Now get out of here. Come here. Hey, that's all you get. Back. Go house. Elsie. That's such a calming, relaxing video, Elsa. Animals. So if you can reach your feet, which hopefully you can still, let's go ahead and press the feet out and a little firm pressure. Actually push into your feet. And if you have sensitive feet, if you don't go barefoot or touch your feet very often, it may be a little painful, but that's okay. If you get a really hardcore foot massage, it's so painful, but then you get up to walk and it feels like you are floating on a cloud. It's amazing. So I'm a big fan of massaging, hard massages on the feet. Makes a big difference. Okay, and then we're going to bring it up through center, cross the ankles, and just roll through quadruped. And our feet have been tucked for a while, so now we're going to squish the toes under and push weight back into our toes. After a few pulses, you can hold the weight back and kind of shimmy right to left to open up the toe space. And then we'll move into our downward facing dog, nice and slow, maybe one leg at a time. Start pedaling it out. See what you need here. And then from that pedaling, we're just going to start lifting and not even going to a plank, but just allowing the hips to move. Check in with the fingertips. Make sure all the fingertips are working down here. And then we'll take the hips back and over to the right side. Lean into it. Try to keep the shoulders squared to the floor. Lift back up, take one little roll, and then go over to the left side, keeping the shoulders squared. Lift it on up. Now, instead of letting the heels fall, I'm going to put the heels straight down and just press my hips to the right. Maybe you feel a little different stretch there. Circle all the way through plank, come directly back. So my heel toe is still in one line, but I'm going to push my hips to the left this time. And then circle your way through, come back through your downward facing dog. Give it a little shake or anything you need there. And then we're going to step our right foot to the center of the mat and lower the back leg here. Now, take notice of the right toe. Make sure it's about in line. Depends on where your foot is formed at, but about in line with the right knee. And I know I just said step to the center, but I'm not really sure where I was going with that. So let's heel toe our foot slightly to the right. So now we can be in a low lunge stance. I don't know what I was doing with that there, but here we are. Now we're here. Left palm is planted, right foot is planted. You can do lots of different things here. You can sink, pulse into the hips, open up this bottom hip flexor. You can go to the outside of this front hip by letting the foot turn, pressing the knee out. I love to take the hand back and add some rolling through the back muscle here. Doesn't really matter for me where I place this front leg, which is my right leg. Anywhere I place it, I can go toes out, toes forward. It still feels really good from the hips all the way through the spine up into the shoulder. You can bring it all the way down and rest here. You can lift all the way up and reach back for a bind. And then one of my most favorite things, which we're going to hold this one. So I'm actually going to shift forward here and grab this little thing. So my right foot is forward, my left palm is down, and I'm shifting forward into my lunge. Now watch as I shift the outside of my left hip. I'm going to actually pivot. So I sink to my left outer hip. So I'm going to do it facing away from you. So watch my foot. I'm here. Now, if I'm in a lunge, my back heel is up, but I'm actually going to lift and go to the outside, the lateral side of the hip. And now I get a nice deep stretch across the IT band there. And this arm is staying really long. I'm creating a nice stretch through the side body. This feels like a great stretch. And you may be really tight here, so just start slow. You may need to bring the hips up if you're not ready for that deep stretch yet. With this top arm, I just hold my leg. I'm going to go ahead and switch it back forward. I just hold my leg to be comfortable. Oh, it's confusing with all this switching around. So let's see, outside, I just hold the leg here. And you're getting a little bit of like a grasshopper stretch on this side as well. Oh, it's one of my favorite stretches. And actually, we might as well move right into grasshopper from here. So you can let the hips sink all the way down. While you're holding this active stretch though, the hips aren't, they can be touching the floor, but I'm still creating this tension across the side body to feel that stretch. But now I'm just going to release that tension, come all the way to the floor. And we're going to go straight into our grasshopper. So this top foot, my right foot is facing forward, and you can come to the inside. Now, if your leg is folding, you're not going to get such a deep stretch. So try to push the toes down, bring the knee in close, and then it's a hinge from this hip. So I'm trying to walk forward. Now I feel a nice stretch. You can keep walking forward. You can go all the way to the floor if you want. You can extend that bottom leg. I'm actually going to try to, let's see if this feels like anything. Tuck the back leg, pull it in. Nah, doesn't feel like anything. I'm just going to stay here. Sometimes I get excited. Taking one more breath. And then walking the hands all the way back up. Now you can release the leg because we're going to transition into our low lunge once again. So we kind of shift the toes forward. From that low lunge stance, I'm just going to step back into my pyramid. So I already have feet in line with the hips. Just take the hips straight back. Maybe take a moment to work through the ankles. I like rolling heel to toe. Take a peek at your feet. They're on train tracks, so our feet aren't in line. I have my right foot in line with my right hip and my left foot in line with my left hip. Now I'm feeling pretty good. I'm going to hold. Take a deep breath here. Sometimes it helps to hold the side of the mat. If you're not here yet, you can lift up to a flat back. You can bind to the legs. You can bind to the hips. You can open the heart here. I sometimes hold on to both legs, keeping the weight equal. You can walk the hands behind, whatever you want to work on tonight. Releasing the head and a yes and a no. One more breath. I'm going to actually add a few rolls through my spine to go a little deeper with this stretch. Trying to work the length of the spine out of the hips. And then bending both knees, hands at the top of the mat. We'll inhale, right toes high to three-legged. Exhale, bend the knee and open the hip. Feel the hip stretch. Hip flexors opening. And then moving towards a downward facing, but my right foot is going to stay tucked under. And I'm just going to stretch the top of the foot there. Now, a lot of the weight can stay in the left foot, especially if you're not familiar with this stretch. But if you want to put more weight on the right foot, then you just kind of lift off the left foot and you'll get more weight onto the right side. Beautiful, releasing there. Let's release from our downward facing into a quadruped and add some gentle cat-cow movements. Maybe you want to do any sort of movement. My brain was going foggy there because yoga feels so nice. Feel like I need some figure 8 patterns here. I love the figure 8s because it adds a whole wave through the whole spine, and the body just kind of follows along. It creates a lot of good mobility through the vertebrae. From the base of the spine all the way to the crown of the head, you'll notice if you start doing those figure 8s and just allowing the softness of the movement, your head will go with it. Beautiful. Okay, let's move into our left side lunge. So I'm going to start from our downward facing, bringing the left leg not to center, but to the side, so we land in our lunge. Got this handy little knee pad here. So now left foot is planted, right palm is down, sinking into the hips, all the things we did on the other side. You can go to the floor. One other option is, see how I'm pushing this front hip down? I love this for my hip flexors because as I sink down and lift up, it creates a longer stretch here. But you can also lift up the hip flexors a little bit, and sometimes that takes it deeper into the quads to stretch. I am always trying to stretch my hip flexors because I sit a lot, so this feels so great to sink here. You can open up that front leg, the left leg. You can turn the toes out or pivot them out. Remember, we reached back for a bind. You can use that bind to twist the torso, really pull the shoulder open, maybe gaze back. Hi, Jakey Bud. And then we also did some nice rolling. So before I roll, I'm going to re-square up because I was kind of too twisted there. So you can keep the toes forward or open. I'm going for the open toe and adding the rolling all the way from the hips to the shoulders. Whew. We'll take 3 more breaths. And then last one. Now we're moving on to my favorite one, where we're opening the toes and sinking the back hip, but I'm actually pivoting to the outside or the lateral side of the hip. So as, follow this right hip here, as I tilt, the outside of my hip goes towards the floor, and now the arch of my foot is facing up towards the ceiling. So you can see from here, my leg is nice and long, my hips are falling to the floor, but I'm using this bottom arm to lengthen my spine to keep that taut, that tension on the right side. I feel a deep stretch all the way through the hip here, but also all the way through the abdominals, through the rib cage. I'm using my lat to push I'm pushing my lat down to open everything up here. Ooh, I feel like if you want to go farther, you could even very gently add a little head tuck, creating a real full C curve here. Let's take 2 more breaths. Gently releasing, gently bringing the hips up, especially if you're in that deeper pose. I'm going to square forward and then placing the palms. You'll walk that left foot in, lift up to your 3-legged, inhale, left toes rise. Exhale, bend the knee, open the hip, feel the hip flexors release. And then we'll go into our pyramid stance. I just realized we went to our pyramid stance before this last time, but oh well. It doesn't really matter. We get it all in anyway. So now our feet are back on train tracks. We're not one line, there's space. So now we can balance a lot better. So finding all the different moves we did before, you can roll through the heel to toe. Check in with the ankles. This is great for ankle stability. You're also working your shins and your calves here. On top of working them, we're just stretching them, getting them to mobilize. And then I'm going to land, pull my hips back as I lean my heart forward. If you don't feel a stretch in that front leg, the front hamstring, draw that hip back farther. I promise you'll feel the stretch if you square your hips. Any movements you took on the other side, check in with the big toes, make sure they're grounding down for balance. You can lift and lengthen. You can bind, open the heart. You can grip the mats or maybe hold on to the legs individually. I like to just walk the hands back, releasing the head, yes and no. And I'm getting lazy here. I'm going to pull my hip back a little farther. And then planting the fingertips. Take a few rolls through the spine. You can always bend the front knee if as you roll, it feels like you're creating a little tension. You can just bend the front knee, creates a little bit more space for the hips. Try to take the roll all the way through the sternum, all the way through the crown. And then we'll land, bend both knees. This time we're coming straight onto the floor. So from our quadruped, we're going to lift up into our downward facing. Oh, hello, Elsa. Will you get out of the frame, please? Come here. Over. Anyway, we're taking our left toes under this time. So the right foot plants, the left toe is tucked under. Remember, if you want more weight on top of the left foot, then you just get lighter on the right side. And gently releasing the pressure. Let's bring the knees all the way down to the floor and go into a puppy's pose. Since we have these puppies all over. Here, Elsa, come. Go house. So puppy's pose, most of the time when I'm in class teaching and I say puppy's pose, almost everyone goes into child's pose, but it's not actually child's pose. It is a thoracic cage opener. So we want to be expressing this part of our body. It's actually a back bend, but we're using the gravity in the floor to help us get into that back bend. So my butt actually stays high, not low, because if you can see in here, if I bring my butt down, I no longer have a back bend here, or a heart opener. So I want to keep my butt up to create that bend. And gaze hopefully can stay forward. The wider your arms are, the easier the pose is. So you can start with pretty wide arms. And I always think about pulling my armpits down to the floor so it releases my shoulder. Maybe your chin or your chest can go to the floor. But now you can see I have a nice deep curve on my spine. And as I breathe, it's opening up, it's fanning out all the thoracic cage muscles, working with the lungs. Taking 2 more breaths here. And our spine, of course, is connected all the way to the head. So we're trying to keep the gaze forward for that deeper stretch. Now we can pull it back into a child's pose. And we can take a breath here to relax. Walking the hands. Let's come all the way up. Let's bring the knees together. I love this for a thigh stretch. I just lean back. And actually, right now, my shins and the front of my ankles have been running, so they feel pretty tight. So as I lean back, I'm actually feeling a really nice stretch through the front of the ankle, through the front of the shin. And then I'm going to change it up. I'm going to pull my knees down a little bit. I hope you saw that. Now I can feel more of my thighs. So from here, stretching the bottom of my leg, to here, stretching the top of my thigh. And I just got a back adjustment. That was perfect. I love yoga. And releasing. Add some nice rolling through the spine. Soft movement. Maybe palms open. Palms open in the form of receiving. And then we'll come all the way onto our back. And I'm going to finish this up here because I am out of time. It's time to go pick up my daughter. But I'd like you to take your legs up for a moment, relax the legs, shake them out, check in with the inner thighs. Any kind of movement you need here, there's always happy baby. Single leg, we did a lot of hamstring stretching, but you can always go into a splits here. We didn't do too much inner leg line, so a wide splits is a good option. And then bringing the feet together. I always love ending every class with a Supta Baddha Konasana. So placing the feet together in a butterfly position, massaging the belly, keeping the belly muscles soft, and then landing the hands at the hip. I just feel like it always gives the best adjustments. So my wrist is facing the hip, my fingertips are facing down, and it's on the exhale, you press firmly, very firmly, to try to get some cracks or pops out of the spine. Oh yeah. Gently releasing the pressure when you're ready. And if you didn't get any adjustments, you can try it a couple times. Maybe your muscles weren't quite soft enough, but I always tend to get at least 3 or 4 cracks out of there. Anything else you need before you finish your stretch class? I'm going to leave you here in hopes that you get a Shavasana. Actually, I may take a few rolls. And if you do get Shavasana, I hope you have a beautiful song to listen to. And I hope you enjoyed class tonight with me. I think we got a good 20-ish, 25 minutes in there tonight. So I enjoyed that. Thank you. And I'll see you next time on House of Chi.